Tacoma Ground Cherokee 7428 Romeo, South Condos, reposition, fuel farm.
Cherokee 7428 Romeo, Tacoma Ground, reposition via the ramp.
28 Romeo on the ramp. Okay, we're on the south end of Tacoma Narrows Airport on the ramp, heading northbound. And here's X-Plane 11 view. So I'm going to be switching between X-Plane 11, MSFS 2020, and Real World as we make our way northbound. Here we are looking over at the South Condo hangars. And then here's a view in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, same hangars. And this is all done in real time as I flip-flop between the different views. And there we are back to Real World. And I'm trying to turn my head to look kind of between the different hangars. As you can see here, there's some new configurations, some windows that have been added in the past several months. Those certainly aren't going to appear in the simulator. Here we are back to X-Plane 11. It is showing some of the windows in the hangars, but obviously not to the extent that you're seeing them in the real world footage. This is quite accurate here, this hangar here with the windows at the end. And then here's a big box hangar, and that does very closely replicate what we see in real world. That Cessna airplane to the right there looked like the wheels were kind of sunk a little bit down into the asphalt. Here's back to Real World, and there's the windsock on the south end of the airport. And again, turning to our right on the ramp, then we can see in the distance the tower and Pavco FBO, which is the blue building up there, quite accurately rendered in the simulators, both in X-Plane 11 and Microsoft Flight Simulator. There's the tower, there's the hub restaurant just to the right of the tower, very accurately depicted. As we zoom in there, you can see the hub restaurant emblem, and then there's the tower, and then there's a stand right next to the tower that's not replicated here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. There's a kind of an open space there to the left of the tower, but there's actually a stand there that is replicated in X-Plane. And now we are back to Real World. And you can see the American flag there kind of to the left of the tower. And there's the stand for people can climb up to that stand and kind of observe flight operations. And the building there with the big blue doors to the right is Narrows Aviation. That's quite accurately depicted both in X-Plane 11 and in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You'll see it better as we go from north to south as the video continues. Now we're coming up toward the fuel farm, which is where we're going to pull the airplane in and I did an actual refuel of the real world airplane when I was over there. And here's Flight Simulator 2020, Narrows Aviation to the right. And then these are the Pierce County municipal hangars. And here we are back to real world, same hangars, quite accurately depicted in both MSFS 2020 and X-Plane 11 as we make our way to the fuel farm over here. So all of those hangars here, the blue ones, those are all Pierce County owned. Now back to X-Plane 11 as we make our way up to the fuel farm. You can see the sign up there in the distance. And then that used to be, that building there, that kind of beige building, that used to be a helicopter parts manufacturer. Now it's a flight school. And now we are back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I'm very, very impressed, I have to say, with MSFS 2020. It's absolutely extraordinary in terms of detail, brightness, contrast. Very, very, very well done. Very impressed. Here we are back to real world as we turn right into the fuel farm. There again is the sign. There's the tank for avgas. Actually, that's for jet fuel, and then they have an avgas tank as well next to that. And some of the aircraft parked out on the ramp, and here we are back to X-Plane 11 as we make that right turn to turn the airplane around and come back toward the north next to the fuel farm. And now we are back to MSFS 2020 as we get ready to make that left turn. Again, there's the flight school. And then those are municipal hangars to the left of it, those blue buildings. There's the fuel tank right there. Quite accurately rendered. There is as you can see, real world here, there's a canopy over that tank. But again, it's extraordinarily well done in both MSFS 2020 and here's X-Plane 11 as we pull up to the fuel farm. Very, very impressive.
So I thought it'd be kind of fun to actually get out of the airplane and walk over to the fuel pumps and compare. You know, I'll try to get out of the airplane in both the simulators and see how real close-ups of the fuel pump compare to each other. So we're getting out of our Piper Cherokee here. And now this is a flight school. Rainier Flight School that used to be, again, a helicopter parts manufacturer. Here's fuel pump. And we just refueled, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my receipt from the self-serve pump here. There's obviously the fuel pump grounding strap, and I'm really curious to see how this compares with the simulators. And then we just topped off our right tank here. We just put in probably about 7 gallons to bring it up to about 22 gallons here in the right tank with 100 low lead gas. Now getting back into the airplane. And we're gonna start it up and head on over to the south end of the airport.
And here, as promised, is the external view, kind of showing a close-up of the fuel pumps over there. And this is our tail number, November 7428 Romeo, replicated on the side of our Piper Cherokee here in X-Plane 11. And I'm just going to kind of move around, just show you some different views over here by the fuel farm. And then we're going to taxi from north to south, and everything here forward is going to be external view. And now the external view of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, showing some of the detail in the fuel farm, the fuel pump. You can actually even see the price of the fuel indicated on the fuel pump, which I thought was really cool. Again, the only thing missing in the simulators is the canopy that's actually over the fuel pump at the real airport. Okay, leaving the fuel pumps and heading back southbound. This is the underwing 4K camera. That's a GoPro Hero 11, and everything from here on through the end of the video is going to be all external views in the simulators as well as in the real-world airplane. Here we are in X-Plane 11 at the same point on the ramp, getting ready to go into the non-movement area, and then we're going to switch over here to Microsoft Flight Simulator. As we make our way southbound, there to the left is the municipal hangars, the blue buildings, and looking to the right, the vegetation. It's kind of basic in Flight Simulator, but it's accurately rendered in terms of the proximity of the taxiway and the ramp. Here we are, real world, again southbound, and there's a tower off in the distance. And back into X-Plane 11. And on the simulators, I'm going to kind of move the views around so you can get a good idea of what is surrounding the airplane in those particular areas on the airport. And now back to Flight Simulator 2020. One thing that was really cool about MSFS 2020 is that the people that are on the ramp there are actually moving. And I thought that was pretty awesome. They're static in X-Plane 11. And here back to real world, there's Narrows Aviation with the big blue doors. And there's X-Plane 11, Narrows Aviation off to the left. And again, the tower off in the distance there as we approach the tower and the hub restaurant. There's a view of Narrows Aviation with Flight Simulator 2020. And as we come up on the tail, notice to the left of the tower, those stands that are there in real world are not present in 2020. There's a close-up of the tower as we make our way southbound. Hub restaurants to the right side of the tower. Lots of airplanes parked out on the tarmac here at Tacoma Narrows Airport. There's the American flag just to the right of Pavco. Close up of the tower, the hub restaurant there to the left. And there's Customs and Border Protection just to the right of the hub restaurant. And then again, Pavco, the FBO and flight school. They're very accurately rendered here in X-Plane 11. And Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hub restaurant there to the right of the tower, at the base of the tower. Customs and Border Protection building to the right of the hub restaurant. All very accurately rendered. And back to real world. And now switching back over to X-Plane 11, close-up of Pavco. Very, very nicely done graphics in both 2020 and in X-Plane 11. Now, one thing in X-Plane 11 that was not accurately rendered, and I'll point it out as we get closer to it, is Flight Simulator 2020 captured it very well, and I'll point it out as we approach it. And that is the terrain that we're approaching here just past the windsock. It actually has a depression in it in real world, and that was replicated correctly in 2020, but not in X-Plane 11. So back to real world as we approach the windsock on the south end of the airport. There's the big box hangars to the left, and we're coming up on the condo hangars on the south part of the airport. And X-Plane 11. So that terrain just ahead, just past the windsock, that's actually a depression in the real world airport. It's about an 8-foot drop off down in there, and that was not captured accurately here in X-Plane 11. I'll point that out now as we look at Flight Simulator 2020. You'll see that terrain just past the windsock is actually depressed as it is in the real world. Now coming up on the South Condo hangars, very accurately done, very nicely done in Flight Simulator 2020. That's a little foobar right there. That airplane is sunk down into the asphalt. Not sure what was going on there. Can't quite see it here in this view, but that depression I'm talking about is to the right of the airplane there. It's actually, that terrain drops off down. There's a big dip. And here's that hangar with all the windows that was recently renovated. Back to X-Plane 11. And we're coming up on our home hangar here, just 3 hangars down, and we'll be turning into that. And that'll terminate our video, and then we'll have some concluding remarks. There's that depression area that I was referring to. Very, very well done. I was very impressed with Flight Simulator 2020. That is a peculiar thing right there. That big dip does not exist in the real world airport. Not sure why that Flight Simulator 2020 thinks there's a big dip there. And we're coming up on our hangar just past that Jeep Rubicon that's parked to the end there. And back to X-Plane 11. Vegetation looks good in X-Plane 11. I like the fact that they do have some taller vegetation there just adjacent to the taxiway. And here we are coming up to our hangar, getting ready to make our turn. Flight Simulator 2020 once again. And making our left turn right here. That'd be about where that Jeep Rubicon is parked in the real world footage. Coming down the hangar bay, there's the Jeep Rubicon, making our left turn here. And the hangar with the door open there, that's where we're going to be parking this airplane. And back to X-Plane 11 as we make that turn. And we'll conclude here in a minute and make some comments. I do like the hangars better in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think they look more realistic. And switching over to Flight Simulator 2020. And that will be the open hangar that we're approaching just there to the left. And we'll conclude with real world and park the airplane and give our conclusions. So in conclusion, I thought that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 was superior to X-Plane. Both had the Orbx Tacoma Narrows Scenery, so it was an apples to apples comparison. And I felt that Microsoft Flight Simulator was as close as you could probably possibly get in a simulator to the real world airport. So there were some peculiarities, but including the one Cessna aircraft that was sunk below the asphalt. That's kind of weird. And then there was that one very abrupt bump or dip in the taxiway. But those I thought were pretty minor when compared to the overall superiority, I think, of the product. So I really want to get into Microsoft Flight Simulator. I am an X-plane guy right now, mainly because of the aircraft, the flight characteristics, the user-friendliness of setting up the aircraft and all of its systems. There's a lot of reasons I'm an X-plane guy. But I do, especially when Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 comes out, I really want to try hard to make a transition. Hopefully they have made some improvements by then with respect to the aircraft characteristics, handling, aerodynamics, and all of the things that X-plane offered. So anyway, we'll see what happens when 2024 comes out, but I thought that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 was absolutely fantastic here at Tacoma Narrows Airport. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.